With the world still being in the middle of a pandemic, the current conditions of COVID-19 are changing life on a day-to-day basis. The toughest part is the world is at the mercy of something that we aren't quite sure what it is. But against my early prediction, the NFL will proceed with this season on schedule. And it's obvious that nothing this year will be the same because of the strange times that we're in. However, the NFL continues to operate as an organization that is so arrogant because of its gross popularity. And the lackadaisical approach to making a plan to open up training camp safely is all the proof that you need. And I'm not sure if it's because the virtual draft actually went by so smoothly, or the fact that they thought they had a time advantage because their sport doesn't start until the fall. I mean, heck, maybe they even thought that COVID would just magically disappear during the summertime and they had nothing to worry about.
Typically that will go away in April.
It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear. It'll go away. It will go away. It's going to go away. It's going to go away.
It will go away. You know it is going away.
So in this video, we're going to talk about COVID-19's major effects on the upcoming football season and what we can expect. Let's get into it. Nevertheless, my name is Aaron Duncan, aka Dunk, and this is Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk. This is the channel where I might not tell you what you want to hear, but I'm definitely going to tell you what you need to hear. And here, I give recap, analysis, and breakdowns of the NFL through podcasts, live streams, and videos. So you guys make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. That way you get notification every time I drop a video and you won't miss a thing. While you're at it, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps my video in the long run in the algorithm. It helps get my message out to the masses. So the NFL owners finally gave in to the demands of the Players Association and came to agreement that included canceling the preseason after they previously wanted demands to only have 2 games. The Players Association felt that the travel risk that would entail playing 2 preseason games that don't even count weren't worth it in the long run if they really want to have a full and complete regular season. The main idea is the players felt like the timing needed to prepare for an upcoming season throughout these COVID-19 circumstances seemed pretty impossible without making some adjustments to their off-season schedule. And some players wanted to be able to have the option to opt out of the season if they didn't want to play without having any penalty or violating anything under their contracts. So the way it's laid out, if players opt out voluntarily from the season, they will still be entitled to a salary of $150,000. But if players also opt out because of health reasons and anything being high risk, according to the CDC, they'll be eligible for $350,000 in salary. And you definitely better believe some players have already decided to opt out of the season, and the numbers continue to grow every day. And the way these guys are dropping like flies, opting out of this season, is definitely going to look like a league that we're not too familiar with. Coming off of quarantine, players really want an acclimation period to work up from going from strength workouts up to padded practices. Believe it or not, players aren't machines and they can't just roll out of bed every day and play a violent game of football like me and you did on Madden during quarantine. So they agreed to having at least 20 days of a ramp-up period before they start doing padded practices and agreed to only have a total of 14 padded practices before the regular season starts. And from what it sounds like to me, players really just wanted protocols in place to be able to get back to work in a relatively safe way. So the key to be able to get back to work in a relatively safe way during a pandemic is testing, testing, testing. So the protocols will begin with them testing players every day for the first 2 weeks of camp until they get an infection rate that's below 5%. If they achieve that infection rate that's below 5%, they'll then back off and scale it back to every other day. However, if they don't meet that 5% threshold, they'll continue to test day in and day out until they get to that number. Oh, excuse me. I'm just looking for the part where it says they'll just go ahead and completely cancel the whole season because that doesn't seem to be anywhere within the fine print. The bottom line is you can try to start your season however way you want to, but if you don't have a bubble, you really don't have a chance of completing a full 16-game season like you would like. I mean, hell, just look at baseball. The Miami Marlins literally have everybody and their mama on their team getting infected by COVID-19. The NFL has partnered with a private testing company that promises to give them accurate and fast results. But you know what's crazy? That's exactly what CVS told me before they took them 10 days to give me my COVID test results back. But hey, don't worry, I was negative, so I'm good there. But how is it that the whole country can be struggling with finding tests and getting results back quickly enough, but the NFL can literally get tens of thousands of tests on demand? This is America.
This is America. Don't got you slipping on.
This whole thing about the NFL not being able to come up with quality protocols in a timely manner is just funny to me. Is there anything more American than a handful of rich old guys that are oblivious to the guys that they're in charge of, coming up with some BS policies and procedures that only serve their own self-interest? No, that's pretty much spot on America. Meanwhile, the NBA has just announced that their bubble approach has achieved a 0% infection rate for the 2nd week in a row. And this is despite Lou Williams deciding to just wing it after an excused family emergency and almost stripping the NBA of their hard work and accomplishments. You get it? Winging it, strip, don't worry, you'll get it later. You get it later. Isn't it amazing what happens when you don't wait till the last second? You take your time and come up with a quality plan, do your research, and actually listen to the experts. Well, not all the experts. Don't listen to Bill Gates. He's a tech nerd, and I don't know how he ended up becoming some vaccine and disease expert. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, hey, I'm a big proponent of procrastination myself. It's the reason why I have 2 college degrees right now. But the difference is the NFL is making decisions during a global pandemic. Me, I was only making decisions between frat parties and rounds of Call of Duty. NFL also announced that the training camp rosters that are normally 90 men must be trimmed down to 80 before the first 2 weeks of camp because of social distancing purposes. Man, if you've been watching NFL long enough, you know exactly what this is. This is definitely 100% a money play. With the preseason being canceled and missing out on that money, not to mention the possibility of a shortened season, the owner are trying to save money anywhere that they can. Even if it is just 10 training camp bodies that would probably just be making an NFL minimum anyway. What's unfortunate is that every year there's guys like Adam Thielen or Philip Lindsay that get a chance to sneak into a training camp after being undrafted. They end up developing into some star players. What's also unfortunate is my ultimate dream of making it to the NFL from Division III takes another hit on the chin. But this can also mean that some veteran players also get cut just to save money on the salary cap. I would totally not be surprised to see some veteran guys that make a lot of money be cutting at home looking for a job. However, part of the agreement did allow them to carry extra practice squad players and even allow them to put some vets that wouldn't normally be eligible for it. Now, another big change you can expect is reduced attendance at games. The league has mandated that any fan that decides to attend the game must wear a mask at all times and will be subject to temperature checks before they enter the stadium. Some teams have even announced that they'll be operating with a stadium capacity as low as 25% as normal. League sources say the Jacksonville Jaguars feel most comfortable with these policies, mainly because they've been operating at 25% stadium capacity for the past 5 seasons. The bright side is their fans have been social distancing themselves from their stadium anyway, so it should be pretty much business as usual. My only concern is, how are fans supposed to social distance when you see these long lines for the bathroom and the concession stands at halftime? Not to mention, how the heck are you supposed to drink a beer or eat a hot dog with the mask on? You know we try to sugarcoat things and talk about slowing down concussions and preventing all the vicious hits and making the game safer for players. But once again, it's been exposed as just lip service when the NFL fails to act accordingly when they're in the face of immediate danger with this pandemic that we're going through. And to be completely honest with you, I had my doubts and had zero expectations of a football season happening, whether college or NFL. And to be completely honest, as a Panthers fan, I had zero expectations of us winning more than 2 games anyway, so I wasn't looking forward to the fall regardless. Not to be pessimistic, but to me, it just seems so unrealistic to be able to try to social distance and slow down the spread when you literally have guys standing in huddles, standing in locker rooms, standing on sidelines every day together. Not to mention they go home every day to the public and their family and then come back and do it all over again. But my true biggest concern, selfishly and as a fan, is the quality of play. Besides the fact that players have the option to opt out for the season, it seems very likely that the lack of a full all-season program for these players will spill into the regular season. I know all the mini camps and the training camps and the preseason all seems pointless to us as fans, but this is the reason why these guys are professionals, and this is the reason why these guys always look so sharp on the field. You guys remember how bad and sloppy the AAF and the XFL looked? That's because of the lack of quality practice and repetition that leagues like the NFL can get on a year in and year out basis. Not to mention with all these big time free agent moves this offseason and these draft picks who are going to be stepping into major roles, they're going to need some time to adjust, and that lack of quality time back in March, April, May, June in those mini camps is really going to add up. Look no further than the Carolina Panthers breaking in a brand new coaching regime with those guys coming from college, Cam Newton going to the Patriots, Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, or even Joe Burrow being the man in Cincinnati now. There's going to be a very steep learning curve just because of the lack of practices these guys have been able to have. What do you expect these players to break the rules and go against NFL procedures and policies by having organized team activities in the midst of a pandemic? Oh yeah, Tom Brady. Forgot. And some of you may be out there just saying, oh, Aaron's so negative. Who cares about the style of play? We just want to see the game. We love football. I've been stuck in the house for 3 months straight. I just want to see some sports on TV. You know, the situation kind of reminds me of when you're back in school and you have that fine girl and you finally get a chance to talk to her, you ask her out, get her on a date, and then once you finally get to know her, you realize that her personality is trash, her breath stinks, and she has an annoying laugh. It kind of ends up being that you want it so bad, but once you finally get it, you realize it wasn't exactly what you wanted and signed up for. You know, I just thought about one of the biggest things that COVID-19 will have an effect on? Fantasy football and gambling. Do you know how much of a mad scramble it will be to try to find a replacement for your starting running back on the waiver wire after you figure out that he has COVID-19 the night before a game? Now that's serious. And unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the whole year 2020, you probably noticed that COVID-19 and the quarantine has given time for the country to really make changes politically and socially. I mean, the NFL actually admitted to being wrong about players kneeling during the national anthem and being wrong about racial injustice. That's a feat in itself. I won't get political, but regardless of what side of the aisle you're on when it comes to these national anthem protests, this thing isn't going away anytime soon. So don't be surprised to see a lot more players kneeling during the national anthem and a lot less fans in the stands to be mad about it. If you're one of those fans that wants to keep your sports holy and doesn't like your football with a side of politics, it's going to be a long year because the problems that they're fighting against aren't going away anytime soon, and neither will their protests. The bright side is if you plan on boycotting football this year, at least you had the quarantine as a preseason to get acclimated to life without sports.